Welcome to Session 5 of Marketing Step by Step, Discovering Customer Needs. So we dove into these motivators that customers have. We learned that we need to target customers who have a need, have an emotional drive, have started looking for a solution, have few or no perceived options. Well, another question might come up: where do we start? Okay, where do we start? Well, the place to start when marketing is customer needs. So first, start by identifying customer needs and then build your marketing around them. Okay, start with the needs of the customer, then build your marketing around them. The customer needs become the context that you create your marketing within. You don't try to fit the customer needs into marketing that you already want to create. Don't make the mistake of starting with what you think is great about what you sell. Okay, that will just blind you. Customers only care about their needs and getting their needs met. Customer needs are often hidden, so you must dig. We humans like to assume that we get others and we know what they're thinking. If you've ever been in a relationship, then you know exactly what I mean. Turns out that we're not as good as we think. The relationship space is a great place to learn this lesson that we think we know what our partner's thinking. We think we know what they mean when they talk. We think we know why they get upset. But if we really stop and we ask with attention, with intention, why did you say that? What do you really want? Why do you feel that way? And we listen carefully, we'll discover that in almost every situation, the reason why someone is saying something, why they're doing something, why they're asking for something or not asking for something is different from what we think it is. And it's usually different in very important ways. Okay, so don't assume that you get your customer and that you know what they're thinking. Assume instead that you don't get your customer, you don't know their reasons, you don't know why, you don't know, so you must go and research. There's real money on the line. Okay, so it's time to get serious. The price of a mistake when identifying customer needs is high, and the reward great. The probability of successful identifying all key customer needs is very low unless you interact with many customers one-on-one, which we'll get to a little later. So let's talk about some of the drives. Again, let's go a little deeper into the psychology of what's driving the needs of our customers. So we already talked about Paul MacLean's 3 brains. Okay, Dr. MacLean has this triune brain model. Well, we know people have physical motivations. We know they have emotional motivations. We know they have mental or rational motivations. We've also talked about the ideas of survival, reproduction, and status. Okay, first, we need to survive. Then we need to reproduce. And in order to increase our probability of these things, we try to gain social status. In other words, we try to become higher up on the ladder within our group or our tribe or our community. Now, there's another model that you may have heard of, and if you start really looking at these models, you see that they overlay and they overlap. And one that I found very valuable is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, you may have seen the pyramid, and the important thing to remember about Maslow is actually it overlays these other 2 models nicely. The important thing to understand about Maslow is Maslow discovered that there were 2 types of needs that he called deficiency needs and being needs. Okay? Deficiency needs and being needs. And what's important to know about deficiency needs and being needs is that the deficiency needs, which are the lower needs, like survival and safety and reproduction and love and belongingness and self-expression, these lower needs, They actually created a need that we must fulfill. It's like a hunger that's driving us. And another thing that's really curious about deficiency needs is that when we meet one of them, whatever the highest priority one is, well, then another need emerges. And it's a deficiency need too, so it drives us to fulfill it. So as soon as we fulfill survival, as soon as we survive and we realize, okay, I made it, I'm going to survive, I'm not going to be killed in the next few minutes, immediately another need emerges called safety. If we get that need met, then another one emerges called security. And if we get security met, then we have another one emerge called love and belongingness. And if we get that one met, then we have one called self-expression that emerges. So it seems like we humans have this system that will never let us rest, because as soon as we get one deficiency need, one kind of core need that's driving us to meet it met, another one pops out. It's like that game at the carnival called whack-a-mole, where you whack one and another one pops up, and then you got to hit that one. Well, the good news is that eventually, if you keep working on this and developing as a human, you'll get to a higher level called actualization by Maslow, where these deficiency needs stop being deficiency needs that are driven by deficiency and lack and hunger, and this level called being needs emerges, which is a much higher level, and it's much more interested in contributing to the world, becoming all you can be, and ultimately transcending and contributing and making a big difference. But for now, we need to remember that the irrational needs that are driving us and driving most of our customers are these deficiency needs. And survival, reproduction, status, these are not needs that occur as being optional to the average human. Let me say that again. These are not needs that occur as being optional to the average human. They're needs that occur like hunger. Okay? They're needs that occur like needing to go to the bathroom. They're needs that occur like there's an animal chasing us and we have to run away because we don't want to get eaten. They're very, very powerful drivers. Now, if each human has this ladder or this pyramid, this hierarchy of needs that's driving us, and each of us has a new one pop up once we solve it, that probably means that trying to convince people to want to need something different than what they're needing right now isn't going to work. If someone is at the point in their life where they don't have security, you're probably not going to do very well trying to sell them a product that helps them be all they can be as a human, or a product that helps them develop their creative and innovative abilities, right? Because they're at security. They're down at a very low level, a very base level that's more in the reptilian, mammalian brain. And until that one gets met, they can't even think about something like creativity or being all they can be. Eugene Schwartz wrote a famous marketing book called Breakthrough Advertising. Jay Abraham says that it's the second best book on marketing ever written after Claude Hopkins' book, Scientific Advertising. And I don't disagree with that necessarily. And although David Ogilvy's Ogilvy on Advertising is probably up there, maybe tied. But in any event, Eugene Schwartz introduced a really important concept in there. And what he said is when you're thinking about your prospect and you're targeting your market, you need to speak to their level of sophistication. Okay? You can't talk to someone who's at a low level of sophistication as if they have a high level of sophistication or education. And you can't talk to someone who has a high level of development or education as if they have a low level. In other words, you have to know where your customer is at. You have to find them and meet them where they are at. And in most cases, they're going to be in one of these lower primal deficiency needs, and that's what's going to be driving them to get it met. Okay, a deficiency need like a hunger. If you want to get it right, you must talk to customers. Okay, if you want to get it right, You must talk to customers. The fastest way to discover needs that you can fulfill with your marketing is to ask. You will learn more by talking to a prospective customer for 15 minutes than you will thinking about it all day long. Right here, we're drawing the bridge. Okay, we're creating a sketch for a structure that hopefully will be a bridge into reality for you, that you must talk to prospective customers and invest a lot of your time, effort, and energy doing it if you want to discover the most powerful needs that you can fulfill with your marketing. One of the mistakes that I see that business owners make is very similar to a mistake that I see men make when they want to learn how to get dates. For several years, I taught dating advice to men, and we created the #1 dating advice business online doing this. I wrote under a pen name, which was David D'Angelo. I wrote a book called Double Your Dating, and I went on to create several trainings and other programs, and we became quite successful doing that. A pattern that I began to see is men would buy my book or come to one of my live trainings or buy one of my advanced courses. And then what they would do is they would study it very, very carefully, and they would learn everything inside of it. And then they'd go buy another course, and they'd read it or they'd study it, and they'd learn everything inside of it. And then they'd get another one. Or they'd get together with other men and theorize and talk about what to do in every possible situation and prepare for every possible contingency before they ever went out and actually tried to talk to a woman. And it was amazing. I mean, I met guys who had spent months or even years studying all of the literature on how to overcome fear and how to start conversations with women, how to get dates, what to do on the date, and who had never actually gone out and tried any of it because they wanted to perfect it before they ever tried it. Now, as you can probably guess, this is not a very effective technique because what it does is it just gets you locked up inside of your imaginary reality more and more and more. And especially if you're a really intelligent person, you've got to come up with all kinds of stories to rationalize and justify this. The reality is that if you just go out and you start talking to women, if you're a man, you're going to learn way more about what's going on inside of them and attraction and everything else than if you just sit at home and you study books and training programs. Okay? Going out and getting some experience is going to teach you a lot more. Now, I happen to think that if you have the right knowledge in your head, like I teach in my dating programs or like you're learning in this program, and then you go out and you interact with your prospects or your customers or your potential dates, that's where the real leverage is. But what I'm trying to say here is that a lot of people buy my courses or come to my trainings, they go through them, and then they never get out and actually do the work. They don't go discover their own gold mine out in the world by talking to their prospective customers. You'll hear me say this a lot if you study my various trainings. The most important thing you can do for the long-term success of your business is to invest time every day interacting with prospective customers and customers. Okay, that's it. Interacting with prospective customers, and specifically by asking them what their problems, fears, anxieties, worries are, what are they frustrated about, and specifically by asking them what are their wants and their aspirations and their needs and their desires and their fantasies. When you do this, again, you will get a world-class education in your customers' needs. And this you can take back to creating your marketing and ultimately creating your products and services. Now, when you're interacting with your prospective customers, you're not just going there to hang out, and you're not just looking for random needs. You're looking for emotional needs that are going unmet. You're looking for emotional needs that are going unmet. As you research and consider customer needs, pay special attention to those that are going unmet. A need that isn't being met is far more powerful than a need that is being met, or a need that your prospective customer thinks they can meet. So we talked earlier about this idea of targeting customers who are motivated, who are proactively looking for solutions, and who have few or no perceived options. Here's how you find that niche of customers, that slice that has a strong emotional need. They're proactively looking for solutions, and they can't find them. They don't feel like they have options. You do it by researching and talking to prospective customers and saying, what is your fear or frustration? What's your want, aspiration? Then they tell you, and then you keep digging until you find something that they're trying to solve and they can't get it met. So let's say, for instance, that you're teaching people how to get a date. And you say, okay, well, you already created a dating advice program and you built this big business, so I want to teach people how to get more dates, but that doesn't make any sense because, their needs are being met by you. And I would say to you, well, I meet one level of need, but if you start talking to, let's say, men who are looking for dates, and you say, okay, great, what's your big fear? What's your big frustration? What's your big want or aspiration? You're going to find a need that right now is going unmet, that my products don't meet, and that, as far as they're concerned, no products meet. Now, there may be products that meet the need or that solve the problem, but if most men are not aware of them, then that's a really big opportunity for you. I've actually seen companies do very well by just traveling around the world and looking for new needs emerging in markets and then translating those needs into other places. I watched, for example, as text messaging, I remember when it first started, and it was huge in Europe. And I remember people text messaged each other all the time in Europe, and no one did it in America. Well, that's because most people didn't realize that there was an unmet need to send a short message quickly and directly and not have to do it synchronously. In other words, not have to get on the telephone. But it wasn't long enough that someone would want to write a letter or create an email. And this need wasn't being met. And sure enough, it got met in Europe, and then it got met in America. Now it's met all over the world. You can find huge niches like this, giant categories that are available where you can make, millions or billions of dollars by just looking for unmet needs that are out there. When I started teaching dating advice several years ago, I remember looking around and thinking to myself, this is almost impossible, that the need that we come wired with from birth of finding a mate, of connecting with someone else, reproducing, creating a pair bond, that there's no good information to teach men how to do this thing, to how to start it off. There were lots of relationship books, but there wasn't anything mainstream that was a good dating advice book. So I wrote one and then created a business and met that need. Well, now that niche is diverging and turning into a whole bunch of niches. So it's how to get dates online and how to get dates in person and how to get casual dates and how to get serious dates. And it will keep doing this on and on and on. And there are new niches, new needs emerging all the time across all categories, basically. And now with the increased and accelerated innovation, change, and development that's happening as a result of globalization, new manufacturing techniques being available, importing and exporting, the internet, software, technology, the ability to have a little tiny niche and sell to people all over the world. This is just creating literally a golden age or a renaissance of opportunity and a renaissance of unmet needs that are out there that you can help fill. And I know people that sell and make money in the weirdest niches. And some of the niches that I have seen successful, making millions of dollars, things like replica swords and acne medicine and special clothes for different sizes of people. And just amazing different things. And then when you start adding information products and training, which is the area that I'm particularly fond of, it just becomes essentially infinite. The way to find emotional needs that are going unmet is to get out there and start talking to customers. Start asking them what their needs are and what's not being met. And you know what? I have never found a situation yet where there are customers and they have all their needs met and there's not some opportunity to create a new niche. I still haven't seen it. So let's do an exercise. Let's identify emotional hot buttons. And by doing this emotional hot button exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to start identifying emotional needs that are being driven by these older brains that will make great niche and business opportunities, and that also could be great category opportunities. And within these hot buttons, we will find our appeals, our angles, our hooks that we can use to create powerful marketing. Okay, so take out your exercise that says identify emotional hot buttons. When someone experiences a problem, pain, challenge, desire in their lives, it begins a chain reaction of thought, emotion, and behavior. Typically, this pattern is based on a few key emotional hot button issues that drive the person to seek a solution. Use this exercise to identify these emotional drivers so you can use them in your marketing to connect with your prospective customer and motivate them to buy from you. In other programs that I've taught that this is the starting point for all marketing campaigns. This is what I have used for years whenever I start creating marketing campaigns and documents. It's a simple exercise where we first identify a prospective customer's fears and frustrations, then we identify their wants and aspirations. In other words, what are they moving away from and what are they moving towards? And remember, we're twice as motivated to get away from our fears and frustrations and our anxiety and our pain as we are to get our wants and aspirations. So we want to put about twice as much attention there. So we're going to start this thinking, of getting inside from the customer's perspective of what's driving them. And ultimately, we're going to go out and start asking them with this mindset and this methodology. And that's going to lead us to insights that will show us big opportunities. So right now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take about 5 minutes and I'd like you to write down what you believe to be the biggest emotional drivers, the fears and frustrations, the wants and aspirations, again, the irrational, that is driving your customer to seek a solution, a solution to their problem. Write down your 2 lists of fears and frustrations and wants and aspirations, and then I will see you in the next session of Marketing Step by Step.